Hello and welcome to episode 60 of Knobcat Games Dungeons of the Obelisk podcast. I'm your host, Joe Sleppy, Executive Prime at Knobcat Games, and this show is our audio devlog where we get together every 2 weeks and we talk about our game, Dungeons of the Obelisk, a 2D turn-based dungeon crawling loot grinding adventure. And I'm joined today by our Animancer, Giver of Movement, Nyka.
Hello.
And our Digital Alchemist, TJ Yedicernia.
Hello.
I don't know, I was just saying this, we don't have too much on our topic list. I think the thing that everybody wants to hear the most about is the progress on the new game mode. See how that's coming along and maybe another update maybe on when we can hopefully expect that, even though it's hard to give a exact date.
Yeah, I'd say that, so the overall progress of it is definitely a lot more done than I would have originally expected. Kind of at a point where, I don't want to say like it's public testing in the game mode, but it's at a point where I might be able to hand it off for testing outside of just myself messing around with it, which is a really good sign for just how close it is to being done.
Yeah, I'm real excited to try it out and see how it works.
Yeah, the wave thing about it was probably the biggest thing to have to get done, because like in the base game, every time you fight enemies and finish them off, the game wants to immediately give you your loot, toss you back into the dungeon, have you keep moving. So I kind of had to shift the system so that after a wave, it'll process the loot that you do earn for that wave, but instead of handing it out to you and tossing you back into the dungeon, it's gotta cycle back and then just throw another wave at you without having you load into anything else. Is just immediately give you new enemies, keep the player where they are, and just keep them fighting. Right,
because this game mode doesn't have a map to it. You just fight 8 waves of enemies that keep coming in from the right side of the screen.
Yep. I will say there is some visual errors with the thing as is, because when you load into a dungeon, the game is set up so that it'll just immediately place you in the dungeon, have you walk around. Instead of having to do that, it kind of places you in the dungeon. Like you start loading in, and then instead of loading a map, it'll just trigger the usual effect of you got caught by an enemy. So that way it can just load into the combat scene without anything else happening. But because there's some other like small back-end stuff going on, it wants to do the thing where it opens up the screen of you walking around. Then you get caught, so it closes the screen, and then it loads you into the enemy, and then it opens back up again.
Yeah, it's a little more tricky than we would originally thought, like, because everybody thinks like, oh, just make like an infinite mode, but the problem is the game existing already doesn't have an infinite mode, so like to change it to this new style, it just has a lot of like little nitpicky things that you wouldn't think of right offhand.
Yeah, there's a variety of like small things about it that just wasn't really considered, which now that it's being set up, expanding it in the long term is going to be incredibly simple. It'll take like a fraction of the time to go and expand on this game mode after it's fully set up.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. We'll see. The budget's getting pretty low, so we'll see how that affects development, I guess, in the near future. But yeah, I'd love to be able to get to invasions soon, but for my idea for that to work, we have to have like a couple new bosses and new items and stuff, so that'll take a little bit of design work and art and animation and stuff. But you know, the idea with the new game mode, which is challenges, was to set up, you know, the initial groundwork for invasions, but use like almost all pre-existing assets. But there were a few things we had to add in, like we're adding the new rarity, which has been planned since the beginning to be in the game, but I wasn't really planning on adding it right away. But I think it makes sense for champion items to drop in this challenge mode. So, I don't know, is there anything like, have you tried to add in the new rarity yet?
I'd say the groundwork for the new rarity is more or less in place. Before I add in the actual item itself, because it's completely new and doesn't exist, I gotta set up the back-end system so that it can actually handle the fact that there's a new item. Things like, what's the stats of it, what's the UI that you see? How does the item even get saved internally? All those things have to be set up before I even bother to add it. So a
Right.
good portion of it's all set. I want to say within a few days, I'm going to test the actual item, see if it existing works, and then start to add other things about it, like what kind of stats does it have, what are the special effects and other things that allow it to function.
Yeah, and it does have a special new thing to it too. Like the item is an offhand weapon, but previously other dual wielding offhand weapons have just triggered automatically without a mana cost. So this one will be different in that it has a additional mana cost on top of your normal move. So that might throw some errors too.
Yep, that one's definitely a new one when it comes to combat, because, I mean, at the very least, when it's in, it means that you now have a powerful offhand attack, but trying to implement it, I gotta set it up so that it has like a mana check right before it tries to trigger itself.
Right, because you'll select your attack and then you attack, and then it needs to see if you can use your offhand attack. But if you don't have enough mana for the offhand attack, then it won't trigger.
Yeah, that'll be an important one to implement correctly, because if done wrong, every offhand's going to require mana, or this new one's going to just never require it.
Yeah, I mean, technically, the way we have them set up, where we add stuff to our document that has like all of the items and stuff, there is like a spot for a mana cost, but previous offhands have just been 0. So we'll see. There's never been like a check, I guess, before to see if you had the 0 or not.
Yeah, I would like to say that it doesn't check for mana at all on an offhand attack. It's a system that was put in place before I worked on it, so I'm not entirely sure. I do know that as I've gotten more comfortable with things, one of the things that I started to get used to was to make use of something called IDs. We have, like, the entire system runs off the fact that every item has an ID to note what it is, and every attack has the same system. So long as the game can check what is the ID of this attack, it can then very easily find, does this attack have a mana cost to it?
Right. Yeah, I'm curious how it was set up, because technically, even if it has a mana cost of 0, I think it would be easier to just check what the mana cost is. If it's 0, you spend 0 and then attack. Even, like, you're still technically checking for the mana cost, I would think. So, and then if it's 0, you spend 0, and if it's 1, you spend 1 or whatever. But I don't know. I'm not a programmer, so.
Yeah, it all depends on if the mana check was there in the first place. I would like to say it is, but I cannot guarantee it.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like, you'd think, like, adding a new item or something would be so easy, but there's always, like, complications that make everything, like, harder than you would think. That's the game dev thing, I guess.
Yeah, one thing that could be tough to do is designing something in a way where future additions are just easy, which we've done pretty well at a lot of that. Adding in new armor, new weapons, new standard equipment has always been relatively easy. Artifacts and companions, because they have unique effects, have to be custom made every time. But that's kind of unavoidable, where the more unique something is, the more time it's going to take to actually implement the feature.
Yeah. Can't think of anything else to ask you about the new game mode. Have you actually tried, like, playing it yet, or are you just, like, testing and programming?
I've tried playing it, at least enough so I can confirm that from start to finish, a player could get it, go through, and win. From what I've seen, like, that all works just fine. The enemies spawn in, then it finishes off with a boss fight. It'll present your loot as it's supposed to. Because the drop chance is low, I haven't fully confirmed if the new set item drops from it. But everything about the code does say, like, hey, this should happen. It should drop this special set and not some other one. And the set itself, which I had started using to test it out, is quite effective.
That's good. I wanted to make, I guess for the listener, there's going to be a new set that drops in challenges. It'll basically be like the challenge set. So even if we add new challenges, like the first challenge is going to be glubs. So if we add, like, Moes or Snappingtons or Snecks or whatever mob it's going to be in additional challenges, it'll still drop that same challenge set. And it's going to be a 3-piece set. I don't want to spoil it all yet, but it is going to be an offensive set as opposed to the defensive one that drops in the breaches right now. and I wanted to make something that would be useful to people. You know, like you can't really put the best set in the first like couple game modes, you know, because we want to have like places to expand to, hopefully. But I think it's going to be a good one. I think it might be useful even in the future, depending on what future sets we put out, but it'll always be farmable in challenges.
I'd say its overall effects have been relatively useful from what I've tested with on it. I don't know, not according to the set, but there was one thing that I remembered where I gotta get the scaling of enemies in, because the whole concept of challenges is infinite scaling, where you can keep going until the enemies are so powerful that you just genuinely cannot beat them.
Right.
And I set it up so that now there's like an infinite scaling system built in, where enemies could be level 10, level 100, level 1000, and the game will know exactly what to do with their stats.
Yeah.
One thing that kind of snagged me on is how does the player choose their level difficulty on the challenge menu? Because at our current system, you click a button on the top or on the bottom to increase level by 1 or 2, or go up by a level or down by a level.
Right.
One thing I realized is that, like, let's say there's 100 levels, that's going to be real tough to cycle through.
I guess we didn't talk about this, but I kind of figured it would be similar to the way you select the difficulty in breaches.
Yeah.
You know, where it has like a button and maybe a drop down, but instead of a drop down, maybe it has like a plus and a minus, just like when you're selecting like how many of an item you want to use from your inventory.
Yeah, so you like hold it down and then it'll increase or decrease.
Yeah, so like if you're at 1,000 and you decide you want to do 10s for some reason, you can just hold the minus button for a little bit and it'll get quicker and quicker until you get to 10.
Yeah, because I was trying to concept ways where it might be like the smoothest for a player to go through it, and holding down a button and then it just speeds up, or to go up or down might be the smoothest way. That, or have like an actual option that you click on and then you type in the number you're looking for, and this thing can only take numbers, so like you can't type in words or else it'll give errors.
Yeah.
And then if it's just a number, and let's say you type in 1,000 but you only can do level 10, it just drops you right down.
Yeah, because it unlocks each difficulty level as you beat the previous one, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so you start at 10, you have to unlock 11, and then 12. I wonder if that'll be pretty slow to climb. I don't know. I was wondering if you should unlock 2 new levels, but that might be even more difficult. Another difficult thing to program in.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see.
Maybe help you climb a little faster.
Yeah, because when you're loading in, you know, level 10 is pretty easy, and then you're going to want to be able to burn through to hit the highest level, but I don't want to call like time gating it, but kind of locking it behind the fact that you have to beat the previous does make sense.
Yeah.
Because just because you beat 10 doesn't mean you're gonna beat 11 and just skip 11 and go to 12. So might as well just have the player beat 10, 11, 12 and then just keep going as usual.
Yeah, we can see how that plays anyways, and then make changes if we needed to, I guess. But that, I feel like that's makes the most sense logically, like how to do it. I don't know. Nyka, you've been pretty quiet. Any thoughts on challenges?
Yeah, well, first off, I just had to say when we start talking about scale, I of course am a visual person, so I started imagining just like giant like globs and stuff. I was like, whoa, what are we doing? But no, I'm liking how the mode sounds. I was thinking about how it's like dropping you into a map, or wanting to drop you into a map before it puts you into the battle mode. I wonder if we could like have the player like drop down like some kind of like shaft or like dungeon or something and then it like loads in. I don't know, like maybe work around that. But I like the idea of it scaling. I like the idea of it like, imagine if somebody had got up to like floor or level 99 or something. Well, I guess they can only go up to like 10, right? And then there's Paragon points.
No, you start at 10 and then go as high as you can.
Yeah, it's infinite, so you could fight level 1000 enemies.
I was gonna say, I could imagine people screen capping their like their current like wave in that and being like, look, I'm at like 2000 or something. Just like, damn.
Yeah, it should probably have like a like when on the winning screen, like the dungeon completion or whatever you call it, it should probably like say like something like you beat level 10,000. Congratulations. That way people can screen cap it as like proof they did it.
That does give me one idea, and I don't know if this is going to be like too much extra work, but like it almost makes me wonder about like adding like that to like the leaderboards or something.
Oh, there's going to be a leaderboard for it. Yeah.
Nice.
Yep, that's one of the things I put in early to make sure it works out.
Awesome. Because, yeah, I could see that being a bragging right for sure.
So it does track the leaderboard. Everybody's at 0.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah, currently, no one's on the leaderboard.
Right on.
But it does exist.
Well, maybe I can hold a spot on there for a minute before one of the really good players inevitably takes it.
Sneak a version to the devs, let them get like their own personal high score before it's just erased.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd definitely like to try it and see how far I can get. I'm curious what the scaling is going to be. I think it's a case where it's going to work no matter how tough the glubs are. You know, like if you can fight level, I don't know, 10,000, that seems like high, but like if you can get that high, you can get that high. Or if it ends up being, 80 or something, then maybe it's 80, And I think it's going to be interesting too when we add new challenges to see how high you can get against each mob. It'd be like a good test of how strong each mob is. Because like maybe glubs you can do 250, and then when you fight a snack or something, you can only get up to like 80 on those.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I can see some being much harder than others. I have a feeling that mobs that can heal are going to be tough, because if you can't beat them within that time, especially when they can heal one another.
Oh yeah, the frogs are going to be tough.
Yeah, you're just going to get stuck on them.
Yeah, what is the frog name? Fribbit?
Yep.
Yeah, Fribbits might be one of the toughest mobs, actually.
I feel that. I think I've had a hard time with the Fribbit in the Breach a few times now, so I definitely had like a few walls I've hit where I just couldn't get through a fight because they would just out-heal me, basically.
Yeah, they heal themselves and the team, so...
Yeah, so when there's a crowd of them, if you're not one-shotting them one by one, or the whole crowd, then you're not going to have a good time.
We should talk about the new artifact that's going to come out next week, or this week, depending on when the podcast comes out. Probably come out on Monday, so on the 23rd, we're going to release the Monument of Truha.
That's right, yeah. Which looks like it's going to be a fun one. I don't want to spoil too much about it for listener, but maybe it'll be out by the time they hear this. I'm not sure. It looks really cool. It reminds me of another artifact I did recently that had some like hanging crystals off of it. Or was that a companion, I believe?
Was it Trinity?
Yeah, Trinity.
Yeah, Trinity is out and in the game now. People can get Trinity now and cheat death.
Yeah. I guess what's kind of cool to me is our game definitely, this is, of course, thanks to Ben, who's, I guess, not on the podcast today, but our game has some very, consistent thematic motifs, and, with the slime creatures, and we have, kind of, the plague rats, and, the kind of more, dungeon-y creatures. And this monument has kind of that similar energy to, the obelisk and Trinity, like I was saying, and I think it looks really neat. It has a lot of, bits that I think are going to be just, floating around and, glowing and stuff. Which doesn't sound very descriptive when I'm just saying it like that. But the art looks really good, and I think it won't take much to make it animate really well.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be one that people like. I feel like people have been wanting more offensive items as opposed to defensive items. It's hard to tell, though, because sometimes they don't like that the best stat is an offensive stat, so I'm not sure. But I think this one will be a good addition to the list of artifacts. Truha is the god of stone, which typically sounds like more of a defensive thing. It was initially intended to be more of a defensive item, but we kind of reworked it to be more offensive. I think it's going to be, what did we decide on? Damage against elites.
Yeah.
Yep. It'll end up being a real boss killer, which might actually be able to carry in challenges as well, because challenges have above average rate of elite enemies.
Yeah, that'll be good. It could combine with the hammer that also gives damage to elites. You could probably end up with like up to, I don't know, 60% damage to elites.
And since it acts as a separate modifier, that means that damage to elites will just multiply your damage by that much more compared to just stacking more strength or more whatever other attack sets we have that I can't think of. Crit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that this one has like a real presence to it. It's kind of large, and I think kind of having that as like something you can use to maybe tank some of the more elite enemies and stuff it makes a lot of sense, even though, like you said, it originally started out more defensive based. Like rocks can also be like strength, so like it kind of works.
Yeah, the reason that most of the original, like, I guess we're only on the second new artifact, so we started with the mask, and that one was kind of intentionally picked by me to be a pretty good one to start with. And then the next two, the Pendant of Void and the Monument of Truha, they were literally just picked by Ben off the list of what he wanted to draw. So that's why we ended up with two
nice.
Like defensive items. It was just he randomly like picked them based on, you know, whatever he felt like drawing. So that's why we ended up reworking it to make it, you know, a more offensive item. But some of those little behind the scene things, I guess, where it's, you know, not everything is 100% intentional.
Oh yeah, I mean I think that's just game dev. Is a lot of it is you go in with a certain idea, and like at least maybe like a quarter of it or less is like just happy accidents, I think.
Yeah, I think a good part of like design is just allowing for those, you know, happy accidents, like you said.
Absolutely.
You know, if you set up a good system that allows you to like create things in it, then you have a good, like, you know, basis for random things to happen, neat combos and stuff.
For sure. Like at this point we've developed, I mean, like TJ and our previous programmers have developed all these systems, and you've like kind of written them down, designed them, but like just having it as an actual game that people are playing is, I think that kind of makes it like for an interesting sandbox, because you can see like what other people can do as well that you might not have anticipated. Maybe some cool ideas can come out of things like that. Anyway, okay. Yeah,
for sure. Like it's been interesting seeing which items people actually use, because like I kind of thought the what's the offhand jar called?
Canopic jar?
Yeah, the canopic jar. I don't know why I blanked on that one, but yeah, the canopic jar, like I kind of thought that one was going to be the weakest, kind of, you know, like least used maybe, but it ended up like most of the people that have beaten Titan have used the canopic jar as their offhand, and it really surprised me. I thought for sure the dagger and stuff was going to be more popular.
Oh wow, yeah. I haven't really used that much in my builds yet, so I'll have to look at that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the canopic jar, I guess, can have any stats on it. Like your weapons don't roll. What am I trying to say? Yeah, your weapons, your focuses don't really roll, and the shields as well, the offhand shields, they don't roll minor stat modifiers. So the canopic jar, the mojo, is the only offhand item that can roll the minor trait modifiers. So I guess having those modifiers is more important than some of the other abilities of the other offhands. So it's kind of interesting. Something I didn't expect.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of one of those things where you start making builds specifically for the numbers and not like for all the move sets and stuff. It can get interesting. I was gonna say I'm kind of hesitating to bring up any of the other stuff I've been working on animation wise, just because I don't want to spoil anything. I'm not sure what I can talk about on that front.
Yeah, the monument's the only thing really that's coming up soon.
Fair enough.
The other stuff you're working on, I think, is for the challenges, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Well, you're working, we already talked about it a little bit, the item the new rarity item, the offhand challenge or champion item, I mean, that drops in challenges.
Yeah.
That one, we don't want to spoil that one completely yet, I guess, but yeah, I think that's what you're working on.
I thought so. I was kind of like tiptoeing around that one because I was like, I'm not sure if we want to announce it yet, but
yeah, I kind of just want to drop that it's going to be in challenges. It's going to be like it's the rarity above legendary and set, so it's going to be very rare, hard to drop, and then champion items are also crafted, so you have to drop the recipe and the materials for them. So they're going to be hard to get, and hopefully it's worth working towards.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, animation on it is going well. And that is
right
all
on.
I will say on that.
Yeah, I think we're hitting our time. We started the podcast and I said, we don't have that much on the list. How are we going to get to 30 minutes? And then here we are. So, anything else you guys want to talk about?
I'm out of excitement.
I guess it's been really exciting seeing the Discord kind of bouncing and seeing people talking about their builds and their gameplay and stuff. That's been I try to, like, I don't really talk a whole lot, but I do try to just pop in every other day at least, so it's cool to see.
Yeah, it's been fun having people in there playing and stuff, and everybody's feedback and stuff as well has been really good. Enjoy that people are enjoying it. I honestly haven't had as much time to play it myself as I would have wanted. I might do a stream and stuff, here in the next couple days. Actually, I'll probably have already done it by the time this podcast comes out, but let's get into the plugs, I guess, and we can talk about that. We just mentioned the Discord. If you're not in our Discord, find the link in game. It's under the help section in game. It'll take you straight to our Discord. You can join us, talk to us, ask us questions. We love all that kind of stuff. We also have our website, which is knobcat.com. If you need any more info or want to check out the blog history, like our development history stuff is all on there. It's pretty exciting. We also have our social media, which is Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, which are all at Dungeons Obelisk. If you're listening to this, then you probably like our games, so you should leave us a review. You can review the podcast, or you can leave a Steam review, or you can do both. They're all very helpful and very appreciated. And I also mentioned my stream, which is twitch.tv/StarRambler. And you can join me there when I go live and come hang out. And I think that's everything. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Absolutely.